stands a towering 7.5 to 8 feet tall, weighs in at over 500 pounds. Who's here? This is getting dangerous, and you don't see this clearly anymore.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2021 found footage horror film, The Wild Man, Skunk Ape. A film that is directed by Ryan Justice and it stars Lauren Crandall, Julian Green, Mike Reed, David E. McMahon and Michael Paré. Now the film focuses on a small documentary crew of Sarah and Brandon and Tim, I believe he's called. Sarah and Brandon are a couple and Tim's like the cameraman. So they're doing like the usual, documentary project that they need to be doing, and they go to this local town where over the years there's been many young women especially that have gone missing. So they're investigating. So they do the usual found footage stuff. They investigate, interview the locals, and then they make their way to like a local tracker, Dale, I believe he's called, who agrees to take them out into the woods to give them like a face-to-face with this wild man. Essentially, it's like a Bigfoot type creature who many believe to be responsible for the disappearances. When they get out into the woods, as you can imagine, things don't necessarily go according to plan. Right, what are my thoughts on The Wild Man, Skunk Ape? Well, as you guys know, if you watch my content, I'm a big fan of found footage. So any new like found footage film, I will generally be interested in and I will give it a chance. This one I thought was pretty good. I thought it had its flaws, but as a found footage film goes, I thought they did a pretty decent job. Now, I do definitely want to compliment Lauren Crandall, she's called, who plays Sarah, who's like the one in front of the camera doing the documentary and stuff. I thought she was excellent in this film. Very, very good, strong performance by her. She felt like a real person. She felt like a real character. And I thought she did a really, really good job of keeping you as an audience member interested and engaged, because it is difficult, especially with a low budget film, which this is. Sometimes you can put a performer in, certainly found footage film, because you need to believe that these characters are real people, because it's just someone picking up a camera and filming someone. And I thought she did a good job. And I thought some of the others, especially the other two as part of the documentary film crew, did a decent job of projecting themselves as real people sort of thing. But definitely Lauren Crandall, did I call her Crandall? It's Crandall, did the best job, I think, of really projecting that. So I thought the performances overall were good. Now, saying that, I think one of the things that does, affect this film is its tone, because I mentioned that character Dale, who's like the tracker, is the guy you saw in the picture there. He kind of comes across as not a real person, like a caricature, and when he's on screen, tonally the film feels off. It feels like it's going down this light comedic route that just didn't work. It felt like a caricature of like a Crocodile Dundee, and I was starting to lose interest kind of every time he was on screen. So that kind of took me out of the picture a little bit. The tone of the film, it kind of felt like I had to check whether this was like a horror comedy at one point. And it's not listed as a horror comedy, but it did tonally feel a bit odd sometimes and a bit uncomfortable. It didn't suit what it was trying to do. If indeed it was intentionally trying to do that, that bit just didn't work for me. Some of the locals as well didn't feel like real people, when they were talking to them and interviewing them, and a couple of them again felt like caricatures or almost like attempts to be comedic. So again, that just didn't fit the film. So at one point, it was like following the blueprint of a found footage film. This film, they're interviewing the locals, getting this myth going about this skunk ape. And then they go out into the woods, you hear the growling, the rattling, all this kind of stuff. And, then the day after, they rinse and repeat sort of thing, go out again the following night. And you think it's going to escalate and escalate and escalate like a typical found footage film until, they're put in real mortal danger. And then it kind of what I liked about it, it kind of twisted a little bit. And it didn't go down the route I was expecting, this predictable route. It kind of changes about halfway through this film and becomes a different version of the film you were expecting. In a sense of, there's like it moves more towards like a conspiracy, like a military aspect, and like a research base. And if you've seen the trailer, that's not spoiling anything, because I actually think the trailer gives away a little bit too much. And that's when Michael Paré comes into the picture later on, sort of thing. He's like one of these military guys at this base. So I quite like that. I appreciated that, because the film added a new layer onto it in regards to this conspiracy. It's not just this beast out in the woods that's, killing locals. There's something far more sinister going on, and to some degree not exactly what you expected. So I did appreciate that. I did appreciate the route it went down there, and it kept my interest going, because sometimes a found footage film will just follow the blueprint to the letter. It escalates and escalates, and then the last 5-10 minutes, boom, you get shaky cam and all sorts of stuff going off. And sometimes that can work, and sometimes that can't. This film follows the blueprint, and then it gets to a point in the film where it twists and changes and gives you something a little bit different. And I have to say, I appreciate that. I'm always complimentary of a found footage film that does try to play with the formula a little bit, and this one does it. In regards to other aspects of the film, I thought the effects for the Skunk Ape were patchy at best. If you saw too much of it, essentially it just looked like a man in a suit. It didn't look overly threatening, because it didn't seem to be that big. But it kind of held the mystique a little bit. It didn't show it too much, because I think if it had shown it too much, it would have really, really shown up as being fairly poor. So I think this is one of those films that if it had triple the budget and a bit more polish, I think it would have elevated it even more as to what we got. What we actually get is a pretty nicely well-made found footage film with some good ideas in it, a really strong central performance, and a little bit of originality thrown in as well. So I'm going to give this one a 5.5 out of 10. I thought it was a decent attempt at a found footage film, trying to give a little bit something different, but I do think tonally it's a little bit off. I think there's a few dodgy effects here and there, and I think it could have been better, put it that way. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.